Wedding photographers of Reddit, what was your "they're not gonna last long" moment? I'm a videographer and the groom called me a couple days after the wedding. He wanted me to make sure I didn't include any footage of him checking out the women at the wedding. While shooting video, I attached a microphone to the groom for audio and proceeded to prepare for the ceremony. Just as I was about to adjust my audio settings, the groom stepped into another room with a friend. As I put on my headphones, I overheard the groom confiding in his friend, describing the wedding as a wedding of convenience and reassuring them not to be concerned about what would happen in their relationship. Bride looked visibly miserable the entire ceremony. While photographing the men's getting ready portion, the groom repeatedly kept joking about killing himself. During the toast, the bride ran off to the bathroom for about 30 minutes and came back wiping her tears with her eyes red and puffy. Neither of them had any chemistry at all. It made no sense why they were together to me. That was the last wedding I shot. One of those hotel venues that can run 2 weddings at the same time. Bride from our wedding is found in a hotel room with the groomsmen from the other wedding doing coke before the first dance. End result was we got paid and told no need to edit or deliver pics. Safe to say it didn't last the night. In another life, I worked catering shifts. Loads of Saturday weddings. I'll never forget the best man's toast of the groom. It was a shameless roast. He spoke openly about the groom's willingness to shag anything when he's drunk. He then went on and on about the groom's deadly gambling habit and his short fuse when he doesn't win. He asked the stone-faced groom, how many thousands of dollars in golf clubs have you destroyed or lost in countless ponds? Nobody was laughing. The bride had tears in her eyes and the groom's parents sat in stunned silence. Said this before. Third wedding and the best man, the groom's brother, starts his speech. Well, welcome back everyone. Good to see some new faces and some old ones. I think my first clue was when the bride showed up with some bad makeup, clearly trying to cover her black eye, while most of the rest of the family seemed far more into the free food and booze than the wedding itself. Oh yeah, never paid me either. Classy people. One of the bridesmaids cried the entire time from makeup till reception. Would have nothing to do with the groom. Kept wanting photos of just her and the bride. 8 months later, bride and groom are separated and she up and elopes with the bridesmaid. Bride was such a monumental bitch, her mom gave me a $500 tip for not walking out on the event when she was treating everyone, even her now husband, like a piece of shit employee. She did the whole clicking fingers thing when wanting someone to do something for her, and she berated the DJ for grabbing a sandwich when he'd been there for about 8 hours and was told that he should have brought his own lunch and she would be taking the cost of the food like an open buffet style out of his paycheck. They were divorced within 3 years, but not before having 3 kids that have stupid names. When the groom looked at her like she was the love of his life, and she treated the day like her prom and ignored him. I think they lasted 6 months. Groom didn't want to participate in any wedding pictures after the ceremony. I believe he was more interested in drinking beers with his buddies. I don't think they lasted a year. When I worked as a wedding planner for a hotel chain, the groom had found out his bride was having an affair with her brother's best mate. The bride's mother knew about it, but insisted on the wedding and paid a fortune. The groom wasn't drinking much and at the speeches, stood up and revealed he knew and said he was getting an annulment. He then took his best man on his honeymoon. The honeymoon the bride's parents had paid for. At the rehearsal dinner, every toast to the bride was some euphemistic variation of "I'm so glad you finally found someone to put up with your bullshit." They barely made it to the 6-month mark. There was a lot more, but at the wedding, the groom did cocaine and called bride's father a cocksucker in front of her friends. They didn't last a full year. Over coffee, at our initial "do they want to hire me" meeting. They argued bitterly the entire time and eventually, the groom just sat back in his chair with his arms crossed and wouldn't speak to either of us. I went home and the next day, emailed them the old something suddenly came up and that my schedule had unfortunately changed. Red flags aren't just for the people in the relationship. Vendors, see them and heed them. Triangular flag on post. I was the MC. Just before the wedding we did the usual "there's still time to run away, haha" gags, to which he responded with a door face and, "It's too late now." A week later she was fucking the lawnmower guy. Wedding band, not photographer, but I'd say the one where the groom was caught shagging a bridesmaid during the reception. Honorable mention to the one where the groom and his new brother-in-law's funny play fighting very suddenly stopped being funny. Asked the groom in a recorded interview why he asked her to marry him and he said, "The pressure to get married." They lasted less than 2 months. Hadn't even finished the video and they were over. When the groom told the bride she couldn't have cake because she was overweight. Lasted a year. He gained weight face with tears of joy. I was a bridesmaid in a wedding where the bridal couple left the reception and as if on cue all the bridesmaids started ugly crying. We'd all tried to talk the bride out of going through with marrying the demeaning, insecure, POS and couldn't hold back any longer. The bride's family came over to see what was wrong and just sadly nodded at us. It's been 35 years and they are still locked in the most emotionally abusive relationship I've ever seen. So much potential happiness wasted. Wedding was on a golf course. Bride had a vision she wanted of her husband driving up on a golf cart to see her for a first look. He got one look at her from the top of the hill and vaulted the cart, ran down the hill, picked her up and twirled her around to tell her how gorgeous she was. We caught it all. It was the best first look ever. Once he set her down she straightened herself and looked back to us. "Okay, I don't want that. Let's do the golf cart now." And she sent him back up. Her 3 kids from a previous marriage 8, 9, and 12 were screaming their asses off and covering themselves in soda and overturning tables while making extremely hostile, profanity-laden demands for a drivable Hot Wheels car, and escalated to just randomly hitting people with baseball bats. Whole time mom was going "Ha ha, aren't they so crazy? Oh it's okay, they just get to express themselves." We unschool. Lasted a fake somewhere between 4 and 5 months. Not a wedding, maternity photos. When the jokes about pushing each other off the cliff we were photographing on started sounding a little less jokey. They are co-parenting decently now after the restraining order ran out post-birth. I've been an actual wedding family photographer in my hometown for 15 years and legit never had a wedding where I picked something going wrong. Sure, some couples have shown their true colors after the big day but no big indicators at the wedding. Running into old couples with new partners in the grocery store or wherever is super. The kicker was an old bride asking to remove the photos of her and her ex from my website because he was about to be jailed for arson and she didn't want to be linked to him. Yikes. I'm not a photographer but I used to work with a wedding cake baker staging and setting up. It was always a bad sign whenever I saw the groom smash the cake into the bride's face during the first bite when she didn't. If they both did it my boss never said anything, but if he did it to her and she hadn't done it to him at all, she would say it wouldn't work out. She had a pretty good track record. Best man speech made the groom out to be a gold digger. He wasn't entirely wrong TBA. And this guy was the groom's best friend. These stories are making me feel good about my own marriage, which is nice. No joke. I recognized the groom from a grindery. OMG, so many to choose from. 2 that immediately come to mind. Groom would not make any eye contact with the bride. So many photos where she is gazing lovingly at him, and his just like 10-yard stare right over the top of her head. Was a tough edit. Groom's speech included a line about how opposite he is from his bride because her friends have never even been to Paris. When the groom engraved "fuck you" on the bride